So I'm here with Ben Tulchin from Tulchin Research. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, in that chair on this set, Willie Brown several weeks ago predicted that Democrats in the November election would keep the Senate and maybe make some gains even in the House. That was obviously not a correct prediction, but a lot of people got the predictions for the November election wrong. They did not anticipate the extent to which Republicans were going to make gains. You are a pollster and a strategic consultant. What were people missing, and did anyone get it right?
Well, a few things. One, historically, the midterms for the second midterm of a president, 6 years in of an 8-year term, are bad for the incumbent party in the White House. So historically, this was set up to be a bad election for Democrats. Mm-hmm. Secondly, the map really went against Democrats. If you look at the states that were open, the U.S. Senate races in particular, a lot of them in the South, a lot of them states where Obama had lost. So that was set up for a tough night for Democrats. But why people got it wrong, quite frankly, some of it was hopeful. Willie Brown, I think, was hoping more than, kind of honest analysis of the numbers. But it was historically low turnout, 72-year low turnout, lowest turnout since 1942. And if you look at the coalition that Democrats have put together successfully in presidential election years, it relies on voters of color, younger voters, and voters that we really need to turn out in decent numbers, and they really didn't show up.
Did somebody nail it? Is there some obscure blogger somewhere who guessed it within 0.5%?
Those of us who poll in the business are focused on our own numbers, and we try to kind of distill the noise from what reality is. But look, all our polling, my polling, other pollsters, on the Democrat side of the aisle, showed that it was going to be very close, with a lot of close races. And what happens in a wave election, this is a wave election, things kind of broke against us badly. So it wasn't that our polling wasn't accurate, it was showing close races, close race here and there. And then all of a sudden, on election night, when the turns came in, a lot of those undecided voters, really went against us.
Now, when you're doing a poll, I assume you have to build in a turnout number and or maybe sort of a range of turnout numbers. Was anyone anticipating such a low turnout? I mean, the numbers you were plugging into the equation, were they close, or did you find that you maybe should have, not just you particular, but other people in your industry, should have been less optimistic in that regard?
No, that's a good question. I think for a lot of us, no one, I think, really predicted this record low turnout, particularly in California, where we're looking at maybe 33% turnout, where typically historical average is more like 50 or 55% in gubernatorial elections. So, the best predictor of voting behavior is past voting behavior. So when you look at historical trends, and when an election like this defies any sort of historical trend, it's really hard to predict.
So California is seen by some as the outlier, as the one state that did not get caught up in the Republican wave of victories. Is that an accurate characterization of what happened in this election, or did Republicans make subtle gains in California that maybe just aren't necessarily obvious to the casual observer? What did the Republican wins mean, if anything, for California?
I think for the most part, California did stand out from the rest of the country. We remain a very solidly blue state, a solidly Democratic state. We won every statewide elected office again. I think the congressional races, it looks like we're not going to lose any congressional races of incumbents at least, which is really an outlier based on what happened in the rest of the country. We did lose a few state legislative races on the state Senate side and the state assembly side, races that we had been winning the last couple election cycles, including in 2010, which was a non-presidential election year. So those of us in the Democratic side of the equation who've been used to winning everything, we didn't win everything this time, so it was a little bit disappointing on that front, but Democrats are still in solid shape in California.
I got a post-election email. It was a mass email. It was not to me personally, from John Burton, that said, "At least we always have California." I thought, wow, okay, Democrats. That's one way to look at it. So in terms of polling generally, I mean, traditionally, and correct me if I'm wrong here, polling was done by using landlines, making phone calls, engaging people, and then weighing the responses to get an aggregate result. I don't have a landline, and I'm not alone. How is your industry adapting to the changing nature of people who have landlines, who prefer to engage online as opposed to even on the cell phone, if you can even get to them on the cell phone? What's your industry doing to deal with that?
Yeah, we're in a period of rapid change right now where we do call landlines and cell phones. If calling voters, we're allowed to call landlines and cell phones. We have many voters put their cell phone number down on the voter when they register to vote, so we're able to call some cell phones. We have to manually dial them, so think about calling 100,000 people to get the X number, a few hundred completes, and we have to get our callers to stop, manual dial those cell phones. So it's harder, but the good news about cell phones is we can reach people wherever they are, whereas if you're at a landline, they have to be at home at dinner between 5 and 9 o'clock, and people aren't home from 5 to 9 anymore. So
Right.
as people's lives have changed, but we can reach them, and people on the bus taking uni home or taking the BART home, if they get a cell signal, they'll take our call and do a survey wherever they are. So it does make things a little bit easier. But we are in definitely a transition period in our industry, and at some point in the future it may tip to doing all online, but we're not there yet.
All right, well, excellent. Well, thank you again for taking the time out to be with us here today. For Bay Sunday, I'm Melissa Griffin Caen.